Hey, welcome to the Relentless Positivity Podcast. I'm your host, Joe Martin. I've got a very interesting guest with us today. So his name is Paul Zolman, and he has a fancy title. Maybe you've heard of him. I'm guessing you haven't heard of this title, a love language linguist. So I know you got to stick around and figure out what that is. So Paul, thank you so much for coming on.
Well, thank you, Joe. It's a pleasure to be with you today. Looking forward to the conversation.
Absolutely, yeah, that's a fancy title. So I'm not going to make the people wait anymore. So what the heck is a love language linguist anyway?
So, Joe, that's a great question, and I often get asked what is a love language linguist. It's really kind of hard to say, let alone try to say it 10 times in a row. A love language linguist is someone that actually learned all the love languages, not only to give them away, but can see them when they're coming their way. So it closes that communication gap that most people have in a relationship. That it may not be your primary love language, but you can see, oh, they're loving on me. It's not my primary love language, but I can respond to that. And it just closes that gap understanding that people might have of people loving on them, but not recognizing it.
Yeah. So how did you become one? What's that process look like?
Well, I had to. I grew up in a very angry household, Joe, and it was very unfortunate that way, but fortunate in different ways. That I had to wanted to move away from that angry culture that I grew up with. Angry culture looks like this. There's no boundaries. You can talk over people. It doesn't matter whether they hear what you say or not. You're just talking, and it's just that you have something more important to say than they have, and it's just that type of angry culture. You'll put people down so that you can elevate yourself. And it's not a nice thing. It's really not a nice place. So I wanted to get away from that. And I made the declaration at age 17 or 18 years old, when I'm a junior in high school, that I'm not going to be like my parents. And I'm sure a lot of 17-year-olds, a lot of teenagers make that declaration that I'm going to be a whole lot better than my parents. I could be a better father. I could be a better mother, and whatever. They make that declaration. And then you go out and then you realize, oh, I've got some of the habits from my parents. I've got some of the habits from my grandparents, maybe. And generationally, a lot of these habits, bad habits, are passed down until we figure out what's new, what is something else that I can incorporate into my life. And there was a time just about 15 years ago that I was doing something that I'm not very proud of, but I was being annoyed at other people, stacking annoyance on top of annoyance on top of annoyance until I had a flash of anger. And I would never know what straw it would be that would break that camel's back and cause me to have that flash of anger. But I needed to get over that. Once I had the flash of anger, I'd come back down and then I'd start stacking again. And then I'd come back down and start stacking. It was cyclic like that. I just needed to get out of that cycle. Uh, I think it was contributory to the demise of my first marriage. After 23 and a half years and 8 children, I became the primary custodian of the remaining 5 children in our home. When my ex-wife had the children over for a weekend, I decided I'm going to have a great time doing a midlife crisis. And so I had this midlife crisis thinking, I'm going to go date everywhere and I'm just going to have fun. So I find these people online and I interview them, just do the test online, and then we'd pick a destination. She'd go there, I'd go there, we have a date, and then we go back home. Called it destination dating. So I went to Daytona Beach, Florida, went to Jacksonville, Florida, Atlanta, Georgia, Columbia, South Carolina, Charleston, South Carolina, Charlotte, North Carolina, New York City, Kansas City, Nashville, Salt Lake City, Phoenix, Cabo San Lucas, and a lot more cities. I went to a lot of different places. Did this for over a year and a half, Joe. I realized after the end of that, I was looking for love in all the wrong places. And I wasn't better myself. I was still stacking, 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 and then having these flashes. Wasn't better myself. And I realized I need to get better myself. And the pointed part of that was that I found someone, actually introduced by my sister, found someone that I got serious with, needed big brother approval. Joe, I'm number 10 of 11 children. And when you're number 10, you don't get much say, except that you have to have big sister and big brother approval. So big sister introduced this neighbor of hers. They lived 7 hours away from where I was living at the time. I said, sis, I don't want to do this destination dating anymore. I did it for a year and a half. I had a lot of fun. I'm done. It doesn't work. And so she says, oh, come on. And I said, okay, well, I'll email her. What kind of relationship can you expect, Joe, from email? Seriously. And I thought, I'll just placate her and just make her feel good about the suggestion. Well, I started emailing this woman, and she actually was a really good writer, and it was fun. And just we had 4 or 5 exchanges before I asked this question. I said, "Well, how many times have you been married?" And she writes back, says, "Counting the 5 that are buried in the backyard." And I thought, I found someone that has a sense of humor. Someone that this is a live wire. I really need to pursue this person. So I started getting a little closer, and then I ended up moving up to where my sister was at, where I'm at now. And it was, we got serious, and so now it's time for that big brother approval. So I take her 300 miles north, and the first thing that happens, Joe, is I take her in my brother's house, and my sister-in-law pulls her aside and says, the only emotion that the Zolman family learned growing up was anger. At first I would deny it. I said, then it made me mad. And I thought, I just verified just exactly what she said. And I realized that I hadn't overcome that. So I needed to get more education about it. So I started reading the color code and then settled on the 5 love languages. Dr. Gary Chapman wrote the book, or published it first in 1992. And I realized that these love languages are just kind of aligned with my thought process anyway. These are great ways to express love, but I didn't get it. You mean, if Dr. Chapman, if you mean that if I guess what Joe's love language is and I cater to Joe like that, we're going to be buddies? I'm a bad guesser. Wasn't working so far in my life. Why would it work now? And so that didn't work. So the second thing that Dr. Chapman has in his book says, well, if you take this survey, Joe, you can find out what your primary love language is. Well, or I can find out what mine is. What am I supposed to do with that, Joe? Advertise? Hello, Joe. I'm Gifts. What do you have for me today? I could wear a button that says, hello, I'm Gifts. Here's my Venmo QR code, and just send it my way. Whatever it is, send it my way. That's how you can love me. And it's just so ridiculous, so awkward. I was already done with awkward. Being angry in a public or even a private situation is kind of an awkward situation. You repel people. It's kind of like, Joe, that person in the swimming pool that has an accident. All of a sudden, everybody scatters. It wasn't me, it wasn't me, it wasn't me. And there that person is all alone in that swimming pool. I was that guy, repelling people with that anger. I didn't want to do that anymore. So I thought, you know what, even as dysfunctional our family was growing up, we played games, and that brought our family together. I thought, what if I could make this a game? So I contacted Dr. Chapman and said, are you licensing those little icons, those little pictures that you have for each one of the love languages? And after a couple of weeks, his attorney wrote back and said, no, we're not doing that at this time. But I had a friend that was a copyright intellectual property attorney in my neighborhood, and I went over and talked to him about the idea. He told me this. He said, theory, like the love language theory, is not copyrightable. Application is. So they didn't have it as a game. So I thought, well, I can make my own icons. I'll put it on a cube, make it a game. So that's what I did. So here's the cube. It's just 1 inch by 1 inch cube. Each side has a picture on it that represents one of the love languages. The one I'm holding up for your listeners that aren't on video is a hand that is holding an hourglass. The hourglass represents time. So that would be spending time. Spending time means that, you know, for my wife and I, she likes watching Korean dramas. So we just sit, we're not talking because we're busy reading the captions, just because we don't speak Korean, but just spending time together makes her happy. The next side is service, and it's looks like a waiter. It's a picture of a waiter that's holding a platter that represents service. Service looks like, well, a person that would like their car washed, somebody that wants the carpet vacuumed, the trash taken out. Just they want those kind of things, or they want help with the laundry. That would be service, people that like service. The next one is 2 hands put together forming a heart. From that heart, though, there's a conversation fly out. So this would be the words from the heart, those words that would be meaningful to someone, and that represents the love language for words. The next one is two hands put together, looks like they're holding hands. That represents touch. And then the last one would be a hand holding a gift, representing gifts. Those are the 5 love languages, 6 sides on the cube. The last side I created, I've named it Surprise Me. It's a hand holding a question mark. Joe, there's just 2 instructions. You roll the cube every day, whatever it lands on, that's the love language you practice giving away all day that day. Now, remember, I'm single when I create this. And so Dr. Chapman suggests you do this to your significant other. Who, who in the heck am I supposed to love? I don't have a significant other. So I thought, well, I'll just have to love everybody. And it was perfect for me, Joe, because I needed that replacement behavior. I did not want to keep being annoyed, and have that burst of anger. I didn't want to do that anymore. So I wanted to focus on sending love out. Sending it out and having that consistency, having to have that consistency to everyone was perfect for me. I got so busy watching for what's right about people and what can I love about people, I forgot to look at what's wrong with them and what be negative about it. It was a paradigm shift, an about face for me in my life that has changed my life ever since I've had this. I started working on it in 2015, got the copyright for the die in 2017, and have rolled it every single day since. It kind of gives purpose for the day. It helps you watch for those positive things about people instead of looking at the news that will report 90 to 95% of the negative things that are happening in society. And then that 5%, maybe you can count the weather as a positive thing from the news. Maybe. It might not be positive if you're having an ice storm.
Yeah, that's true. Well, man, what an awesome idea. Because isn't it just so true that whatever you focus on, that's what you're going to see, right? So if you're looking for the positivity, the love in people, you're finding it every day. And this is and don't miss, you guys, that he came from a place of stacking anger and frustration, and on top, that's what he was not used to seeing every day. And just what a switch for you, man. That's so great. So let me ask you, what is your love language?
Great question, Joe. My love language, I like words, and from my childhood, I like physical touch. I would say physical touch is more number 2 right now. Words are more important to me than the physical touch right now. So those would be my 2 love languages. Send it on. I'm here. I'm here for you. And I love that you brought up the word focus, because I use a magnifying glass to really kind of identify that if we're going to magnify the weaknesses and the faults of another person, look at that 10 or 20% of that person that has faults. Everybody has them. Why look at them, and why focus at them? Why enlarge them? Why magnify that? If you're going to magnify something or focus on something, focus on the positive, and that will grow bigger.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So let me ask you, when you study people with their love languages, you found that a lot of people's love language kind of tie back to their childhood, the things they didn't get growing up.
I think that initially it might, but I think, Joe, as they learn the love languages, and the way I learned all the love languages and became that love language linguist is that actually by rolling the die, and over a 30-day period, I had given away all 5 love languages so that I knew them backwards and forwards. It gave me that peripheral vision so that I could see it coming my way. And I think that by doing that, I realized that, you know what, physical touch isn't as important now as it is for some of these other love languages that I like to see when I'm coming my way. I missed all those other love languages coming my way because I thought like Dr. Chapman, that whatever I had, if I gave it away, then it'd come back. There's that expectation there, and I'm not calling that love. I'm calling that a transaction. This is new, that we're giving it away without any expectation of it ever coming back, but trusting the laws of the universe that are all already in place before you or I were ever born. The law of the harvest, the law of karma, the law of attraction, all those eternal laws, those laws that were here before we were, all they say is that whatever you send out is going to come right back to you. When you send love out, there is that expectation that someday it'll come back, but don't worry about it. Might not come from that person, but it'll come in a roundabout way. What you're watching for is people to light up. When they light up, that's what they like, and that's how you discover their primary or secondary love language. Joe, no longer do you have to say, "Excuse me, could we pause this relationship for a moment while I have you take this survey so I know how to love you?" It's awkward. We're done with awkward. We don't have to do that anymore. And I think in that way, we find out what people's love language is, maybe 3 to 10 people a day, by practicing one genre of a love language, by sending out one love in one particular way. We're going to find people that like that. We just take a mental note that that's what they like, and then wash, rinse, repeat. Do it over and over again. And I think that people have feel like they might get boxed in if they take that survey. Like, Joe, you're going to get tacos because I love you, Joe. You're going to get tacos every day for the rest of your life. That's the only kind of love I'm going to send you, because I know you love tacos. You get tired. You get tired of that. You want gifts on Christmas, you want gifts on your birthday, but you might want other things along the way. And I think that that change that people have in their love languages comes from getting to know the other love languages. That's what happened for me, and I believe that will happen for other people. That it could change, it could alter once they know the other love languages. You may only like what you grew up with right now only because you don't know any different. If you, as you explore these other love languages, you might become more a well-rounded character. That fabric of your character actually is going to be stronger in all the love languages too, and you might choose something else for your primary love language.
Yeah, I don't know, man. A lifetime supply of tacos sounds pretty awesome. I don't know. I might be willing to try that. So I like how this is. It's not just for couples or people with a significant other. It's for single people as well. I think anyone can use it. It's a pretty cool part about it.
Yeah, everybody can use this, and it really is significant how that even developed for myself. You know, I this is the prototype I had, Joe, and it's a 2.5 inch wood block that I just engraves the love languages on there, just as I'm trying to test the theory for myself. But as I found out that these sharp edges kind of dig into the carpet, or they dig into the bedspread, or dig in wherever you're trying to roll this, it would dig in and it would go thunk, 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 thunk. And you could actually almost predict what was going to be coming. If you held something on top, that something would have 1, 2, 3, 4 thunks, and it'd be back on top again. And it would almost be like a weighted dice. So I was like that, Joe. I had these sharp edges that I had to just whittle off a little bit of those sharp edges and round it off a little bit so that I could become just a better person. Becoming a better person was what I needed to do in the first place anyway. I should have done it when I was single long, long ago, but I didn't know about it. Now we have a tool. As you mentioned earlier, we've got a tool that you can just help whittle off those sharp edges, but help understand yourself and help improve your loving style and the way you send love out.
Man, I think that's so perfect. I think many of us want to fix the other person, right? Rather
Yeah.
than turning the focus on the person you can really fix is actually you, right? So I'm glad that you do. I think a lot of people don't do that. They're married 5, 6, 7 times. Like, man, I guess marriage just isn't for me. Rather than just
Yeah.
fixing the kind of broken parts that you have control over.
They're blaming marriage as the problem. Exactly. And I like that you brought up that we're trying to fix one another. And I realized that that's one of those boundaries that in that angry culture that I learned, that I was looking over the fence, seeing what other people were doing and being critical about that, thinking that I had the ability and the authority to make choices for them in their own life. I realized when I came to that realization, Joe, that I don't have authority to make choices for them. It was such a relief. Oh, you mean I don't have to be responsible for that? I'm only responsible for sending love out. And the only thing I have control over is sending love out and responding when it comes my way. I can't bid love to come my way. I send it out and then just respond when it does come my way. Be able to respond and improve your vision, improve your communication skills with this so that you can see it when it's coming your way. Another thing that I found, Joe, is that stacking effect that I had for getting to that flash of anger, now it's different. It's a stacking effect, but I'm stacking kindness on top of kindness, on top of kindness, on top of kindness. And it gets you to the higher laws of love, the laws of charity, the law of compassion, the law of intimacy, the law of it gets you to these higher levels of love, like forgiveness or mercy or empathy or sympathy. Those are higher laws of love, higher levels that We have to go through these basics, and we really should have, everyone should have this as foundational. We should become literate, so to speak, in all the love languages so that we can get to those higher levels of love.
I think that's awesome. We talked about there's tools for everything in life that you want to work with. I don't care what it is. There's a tool. So you find a inventive tool because I think some of us we leave these relationships kind of up to chance whether I like that person or not. That's just the way it is. You know, I'm not have to. It's just the way it is. I'm not going to work on it. They're not going to work on it. We'll just leave it up to chance. Rather than hey, we could actually work this out. This your best friend may be someone that you kind of given up on. So kind of that similar vein, what would you say to someone who has just kind of given up on love, ever being loved anymore? The people that say all the time, all the good ones are gone, you know, I'm just giving up on love. What would you say to that person?
That's a good question, Joe, and I've thought a lot about that. I thought that, I would want them to have hope, and I would want them to find hope, and the best way to find hope is to create it for yourself. You can't just sit in your chair at home and wait for love to knock on your door. It's not probably not going to happen, and the randomness of that happening is pretty remote. You need to get up, get outside. There is pain under every household. Find someone in your neighborhood. Just you don't have to go very far, but find someone in your neighborhood that might be in a little bit more pain than you on that particular day. Lift them up, and as you make their day a better day, you get the satisfaction of having done that, and it lifts you up as well. That's all I can say to people like that have felt like love is not out there. It's not out there because you're not sending it out. Just be that person that is going to go around the neighborhood lifting one another, lifting other people up. There, like I said, and you can quote me on this, pain is under every household, under every roof. And let's find it, let's relieve it, and be that person that sends the love out. And the law of the harvest, karma, or that law of attraction is going to help you out. It'll come to you. Don't worry about it. It'll come. Don't do it as a transaction. Love is not, let's make a deal. It's not a reality show, Joe. Just send it out without any expectation. It'll come back. On the contrast, you send anger out, it's like a boomerang. It as it gets altitude, it's going to start coming back, and it's going to come back with velocity, and it's going to be a whole lot worse than you ever sent it out. You don't want that. Nobody wants that. Why would we even choose that? Why would we want to be critical of another person when we know that's coming right back at us? They're going to be critical of our own faults. Who wants that? Why would we? And why would we do it? Why would we send it out? So all I'd say to that person is that have the hope, have the belief and the faith that it takes to just go outside your door, walk the neighborhood, and find that person. Find that person you can lift up.
Oh, that's perfect. I mean, I know there's people out there they're probably kind of doubtful that this stuff works. Just take it from me. I've done this whenever I get stuck in my business and I feel like things aren't going very well. I just go out and I'm gonna go help somebody else. Number one, it gets you out of your head and your thoughts for a feeling and into someone else and helping someone in. And then you're right, it will come back around. And usually, like what you said, it's not going to be from the person you helped. It'll be from someone else you didn't even expect it from. I know if you've never experienced this, it sounds kind of woo woo or not all, but hey, there's science to it. Look it up. It's good stuff out there. So that's great advice to someone out there. And if you're going in with that attitude that you're never going to find love, you probably won't, right? You've already kind of set yourself up for that self-fulfilling prophecy. So tell us a little bit more about your book. I know some of the stuff you talk about in your book.
So I wrote a book called The Role of Love. And I don't know if you can see that or not, but it says ROLE of love. And it's kind of a play on words, Joe, that you ROLL, you roll the dice outside of you. The role of love is actually something that changes you within. And I love what you said just a minute ago about it's when you go outside yourself, it's really no longer about me or you. It's about them. It's always about them. And if you make it about them and making their day happy day, that's when you're going to get that satisfaction that you helped someone that day. That's how you're going to feel that love. I love the Sound of Music and that classic Sound of Music. There's a line in there that Rolf in one of the songs that Rolf is singing to Maria Von Trapp. He's the little mailman, the delivery guy riding the bike, and he has his bike on the lawn, And Maria's in the second story of the Von Trapp home, and she has her window open, and he's singing the song. And in the lyrics of the song, he says, "Love in the heart wasn't put there to stay. Love isn't love till it's given away." And I really believe that as we give it away, that's what the book's all about. It's about several incidences of people giving love away. So you'll want to walk through that. It'll give you a lot of ideas. There's also some other resources on my website. It's called roleoflove.com, ROLE of love.com. And there are other resources that'll give you some ideas of what you can do for each genre of the love languages. There's also a book out there that I wrote several years ago, 101 Ways to Express Love. And it gives about 20 different examples, each love language, in each love language of something that you could do. Just for example, on gifts, what I like gifts because gifts is kind of the umbrella of all the love languages. You could give somebody a hug as a gift. That would be touch. You could give somebody of your time. Just spend an afternoon with them, talk with them. There's an assisted living facility just 2 blocks away from where I live, and I go down there and visit with the elderly people, and I play puzzle with them. And it's just a fun activity. Sometimes it's quiet, sometimes we talk, sometimes it's just being with them, spending the time with them. You could serve someone dinner as a gift, or write somebody a note as a gift. All those kind of dovetail, and all those ideas are in the book. There's several ideas out there. If you need more ideas, you can email me, contact me. I'd be glad to have a 30-minute free consultation for that, and be able to do that for you. One other thing, Joe, is that I've developed a journal too, that you can record what you rolled, opportunities you saw to love in that way, and what you did about those opportunities. It becomes a love journal, something that you can pass on for generations, or something you just look back 10, 20 years down the line, look back and say, oh, I forgot I did that. That was really a kind of a cool thing that I did. But I would have loved to have a love journal from my mother or my father or my grandmother or any one of the grandparents. Instead, Joe, I got a journal about the weather. The weather 60 years ago. Who cares what the weather was like 60 years ago? I would have loved to know, what did they love in their time, and how did they express that love?
That's right. And so you can use the gift of giving gifts right now. Go to that website, order your book, dice, get some of that. I mean, Valentine's Day is right around the corner. This is going to be released right before Valentine's Day. You have plenty of time to get that order, get it shipped over. That's rolloflove.com. I'm going to put that in show notes. You can just click on it if you're a bad speller or whatever happens. You know, no judgment here, but you can go and order that, order the book that goes along with it. It's just a great idea. It's like you said, you need these tools in your life, and you finally invented it. So thank you for inventing that, Paul.
Absolutely. Thank you, Joe. And it's been so fun talking with you about it. And I love your positivity. Love your show. Thank you.
You're a perfect guest, man. You're out there spreading positivity and love every day and helping other people do the same. So that's great. You're kind of passing it on. So that's a great way to go about it. Hey, if you're listening right now, please share this episode. More people need to hear about what Paul's doing in the world. Need to hear about the dice, the book, all those good things. It's going to make the world a more positive place. So you can do that by spreading the word about this. Go on the website, rolloflove.com. Maybe you want to go do a consultation with Paul and kind of help you out. That free 30-minute call, that would be great. So, Paul, keep up the great work, man. I would love to keep up with you. Anytime I can help you out, please let me know.
Thank you, Joe. This helps a lot, and I appreciate your great show. This is something that we need the world to listen to your show. That's what we really need. I love the tool you've created.
Well, thank you. Thank you for coming on and being that person that's spreading the positivity. So, hey, thank you guys so much for tuning in. We'll see you guys next week on the Relentless Positivity Podcast.